Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Chapter 18, Down the Chocolate River. Off we go, cried Mr. Wonka. Hurry up, everybody. Follow me to the next room. And please, don't worry about Augustus Gloop. He's bound to come out in the wash. They always do. We shall make the next part of our journey by boat. Here she comes, look. A steamy mist was rising up from the great, warm chocolate river, and out of the mist there suddenly appeared the most fantastic pink boat. It was a large open rowboat with a tall front and a tall back, like a Viking boat of old. It was such a shining, sparkling, glistening pink colour that the whole thing looked like it were made of bright pink glass. There were many oars on either side of it, and as the boat came closer, the watchers on the river bank could see that the oars were being pulled by masses of Oompa Loompas, at least 10 of them on each oar. "This is my private yacht," cried Mr. Wonka, gleaming with pleasure. "I made her by hollowing out a most enormous boiled sweet. Isn't she beautiful? See how she comes cutting through the river." The gleaming pink boiled sweet boat glided up to the river bank. 100 Oompa Loompas rested on their oars and stared up at the visitors. Then suddenly, for some reason best known to themselves, they all burst into shrieks of laughter. "What's so funny?" asked Violet Beauregarde. "Oh, don't worry about them," cried Mr. Wonka. "They're always laughing. They think everything is a colossal joke. Jump in the boat, all of you. Come on, hurry up." As soon as everyone was safely in, the Oompa Loompas pushed the boat away from the bank and began to row swiftly downriver. "Hey there, Mike TV," shouted Mr. Wonka. "Please do not lick the boat with your tongue. It will make it very sticky." "Daddy," cried Veruca Salt, "I want a boat like this. I want you to buy me a pink boiled sweet boat exactly like Mr. Wonka's. And I want lots of Oompa Loompas to row me about. And I want a chocolate river. And I want... "She wants a good kick in the pants," cried Grandpa Joe to Charlie. The old man was sitting at the back of the boat in the little Charlie bucket right beside him. Charlie was holding tightly onto his grandfather's bony old hand. There was a whirl of excitement. Everything that he had seen so far, the great chocolate river, the waterfall, the huge sucking pipes, the misty sugar meadows, the Oompa Loompas, the beautiful pink boat, and most of all, Mr. Willy Wonka himself, had been so astonishing that he'd begin to wonder whether there could possibly be any more astonishment left. Where were they going now? What were they going to see? What in the world was going to happen in the next room? "Isn't it marvellous?" said Grandpa Joe, grinning at Charlie. Charlie nodded and smiled up at the old man. Suddenly, Mr. Wonka, who was sitting on Charlie's other side, reached into the bottom of the boat and picked up a large mug, dipped it in the river, filled it with chocolate, and handed it to Charlie. "Drink this," he said. "It will do you good. You look starved to death." Then Mr. Wonka filled a second mug and gave it to Grandpa Joe. "You too," he said. "You look like a skeleton. What's the matter? Hasn't there been anything to eat in your house lately?" "Not much," said Grandpa Joe. Charlie put the mug to his lips, and as the rich, warm, creamy chocolate ran down his throat into his empty tummy, his whole body from head to toe began to tingle with pleasure, and a feeling of intense happiness spread over him. "You like it?" said Mr. Wonka. "Oh, it's wonderful," said Charlie. "The creamiest, loveliest chocolate I've ever tasted," said said Grandpa Joe, smacking his lips. That's because it's been mixed by waterfall, Mr. Wonka told him. The boat sped down the river. The river was getting narrower, and there was some sort of dark tunnel ahead, a great round tunnel that looked like an enormous pipe. And the river was running right into the tunnel, and so was the boat. "Row on," cried Mr. Wonka, jumping and waving his stick in the air. "Full speed ahead." And with the Oompa Loompas rowing faster than ever, the boat shot through the pitch-dark tunnel, and all of the passengers screamed with excitement. "Can they see where they're going?" shrieked Violet Beauregard in the darkness. "There's no knowing where they're going," cried Mr. Wonka, hooting with laughter. "He's gone off his rocker," cried one of the fathers, aghast, and the other parents joined in the chorus of frightened shouting. "He's crazy," they shouted. "He's balmy, he's nutty, he's screwy, he's batty, he's dippy, he's dotty, he's daffy, he's goofy, he's beanie, he's buggy, he's wacky, he's loony." "No, he is not," said Grandpa Joe. "Switch on the lights," shouted Mr. Wonka. Then suddenly on came the lights, and the whole tunnel was brilliantly lit up. Charlie could see that they were indeed inside a gigantic pipe, and the great upward curving walls of the pipe were pure white and spotlessly clean. The river of chocolate was flowing very fast inside of the pipe, and the Oompa Loompas were all rowing like mad, and the boat was rocketing along at a furious speed. Mr. Wonka was jumping up and down in the back of the boat and calling to the rowers to row faster and faster still. He seemed to love the sensation of whizzing through the white tunnel in a pink boat on a chocolate river, and he clapped his hands and laughed and kept glancing at his passengers to see if they were enjoying it as much as he. "Look, Grandpa," said Charlie, "there's a door in the wall." It was a green door, and was set into the wall of the tunnel just above the level of the river. As they flashed past it, they just enough to read the writing on the door. "Storeroom number 54, it said. All of the creams, dairy cream, whipped cream, violet cream, coffee cream, pineapple cream, vanilla cream, and hair cream." "Hair cream," said Mike TV. "You don't use hair cream?" "Row on," said Mr. Wonka. "There's no time to answer silly questions." They streaked past a black door, storeroom number 71, and it said, "Whips, all shapes and sizes." "Whips!" cried Veruca Salt. "What on earth do you use whips for?" "For whipping cream, of course," said Mr. Wonka. "How can you whip cream without a whip?" "Whipped cream isn't whipped cream at all unless it's been whipped with whips. Just as poached eggs aren't poached unless it's been stolen from the woods in the dead of night." "Row on, please." They passed a yellow door, which said, "Storeroom number 77. All of the beans, cocoa beans, coffee beans, jelly beans, and has-beens." "Has-beens," cried Violet. "You're one yourself," said Mr. Wonka. "There's no time for arguing. Press on, press on." But 5 seconds later, when a bright red door came in sight, they suddenly waved his gold-topped cane in the air and shouted, "Stop the boat." But it stopped the boat, and the Oompa Loompas jammed their oars into the river and backed water furiously. The boat stopped. The Oompa Loompas guided the boat along to the red door, and on the door it read, "Inventing room, private, keep out." Mr. Wonka took a key from his pocket and leaned into the side of the boat. He put a key into the keyhole. "This is the most fantastic and important room in the entire factory," he said. "All of my secret new inventions are cooking and simmering in here. Old Fickle Grubber would give his front teeth to be allowed inside for just 3 minutes. So would Prudnose and Slugworth, and all those other rotten chocolate makers. Now listen to me. I want no messing around when you go in. No touching, no meddling, and no tasting. Is that agreed? Yes, said the children. We won't touch a thing. Up to now, Mr. Wonka said, nobody else, not even an Oompa Loompa, has ever been allowed into this room. He opened the door and stepped out of the boat into the room. The 4 children and their parents all scrambled after him. Don't touch, said Mr. Wonka, and don't knock anything over. Charlie Bucket stared at the gigantic room in which he found himself. The place was like a witch's kitchen. All around him black metal pots were boiling and bubbling in huge stoves, and kettles were hissing and pans were sizzling, and the strange iron machines were clanking and spluttering, and there were pipes running all over the ceiling and the walls, and the whole place was filled with smoke and steam and delicious rich smells. Mr. Wonka himself had suddenly become very more excited, even more than usual, and anyone could see that this was the room he loved best of all. He was hopping along among the saucepans and the machines like a child on Christmas morning, not knowing which thing to look at first. He lifted the lid from a huge pot and took a sniff, and he rushed over and dipped a finger into the barrel of yellow sticky stuff and had a taste. And then he skipped across to one of the machines and turned half a dozen knobs this way and that way, and then he peered anxiously through the glass door of the gigantic oven, rubbing his hands and cackling with delight as he saw inside. He then ran over to another machine, a small shiny affair that kept glowing and making funny noises, and every time it went put, a large green marble popped out of it and into the basket on the floor. At least it looked like a marble. Everlasting gobstoppers, cried Mr. Willy Wonka proudly. They're completely new. I'm inventing them for children who are given very little pocket money. You can put an everlasting gobstopper in your mouth and you can suck it and suck it and suck it, but it will never get any smaller. It's like gum, cried Violet. It's not like gum, said Mr. Wonka. Gum is for chewing. If you tried chewing one of these gobstoppers, you'd have to break your teeth off, and they would never get any smaller. They never disappear, never. At least I don't think they do. There's one of them being tested this moment in the treating room next door. The testing room next door, and Oompa Loompa is sucking it, and he's been sucking it very nearly for a year now without stopping, and that's just as good as ever. Now over there, said Mr. Willy Wonka, skipping excitedly across the room to the opposite wall. Over there, I'm inventing a completely new line of toffees. He stopped beside a large saucepan. The saucepan was full of thick, gooey, purplish treacle, bubbling and boiling. And standing on his toes, little Charlie could see inside of it. That's hair toffee, said Mr. Wonka. You eat one bit of that in exactly half an hour, a brand new luscious, thick, silky crop of hair will start growing all over the top of your head, and a moustache, and a beard. A beard, cried Veruca. Who wants a beard, for heaven's sake? It would suit you very well, said Mr. Wonka. But unfortunately the mixture isn't quite right yet. It's too strong. It works too well. I tried it on an Oompa Loompa yesterday in the testing room, and immediately a large black beard started growing out of his chin. The beard grew so fast, it was trailing all over the floor in a thick, hairy carpet. It was growing faster than we could get it. We were cutting it and it was growing back, and in the end we had to use a lawnmower to keep it in check. But I'll get that mixture right soon, and when I do, there'll be excuse anymore for any little boys and girls going around with bald heads. But Mr. Wonka, said Mike TV, little boys and girls never go around with "Don't argue, dear child. Please don't argue," said Mr. Wonka. "It's such a waste of precious time. Now over here, if you'll all step this way, I will show you something that I'm terrifically proud of. Oh, do be careful, and don't knock anything over, and stand